It's Saturday night and you're with this Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes and let's crack on with tonight's first debate.
I think he meant to say mass debate. Hello everybody and welcome to the first video exploring Crafty's comeback after he was sacked from GB News for sexual harassment claims made against him. He was then given his job back just recently, but this time he's presenting alongside a group of people, presumably so they can hold him back if he spots a straight junior male staffer. If you haven't seen my video about Darren Grimes yet, it's my magnum opus, something I'm so very proud of. It's a 45-minute dissection of how Darren Grimes' past and present has completely ruined his entire future. I know some of you are thinking, well, it's back on telly, what are you on about? But I do mention this and talk about this in the video, and there is nowhere else for him to go after this. So do check out that video, The Downfall of Darren Grimes, available right now on my channel. You'll be linked to it at the end of this video, and it's down in the description box too. Now here's the new Saturday lineup for GB News, and this makes Darren and his friends look like dwarfs compared to the normal sized people they're standing next to. It's all gone quite pantomime over there at GB News. There's Darren saying, "Where's my career?" and the audience all shout, "It's behind you!" Now Darren is a man who constantly shits on diversity and equality, but I can see a very diverse lineup here on GB News. There's a gay man, a woman, a black fellow, and a boy with special needs. I expect all of Crafty's fans will be shouting angrily about this injection of diversity on their favourite news channel. What are you doing, Darren Grimes? Or alternatively, they will all be hypocrites and completely ignore it all because one of their own is doing it. This lineup looks like a woke live action remake of Scooby-Doo, but without the dog. Obviously that's Shaggy. His full name, of course, is Tried to Shaggy, but was then fired for sexual harassment. But because Scooby-Doo has gone completely woke, this guy's only known as Wanky now, and that's mainly not to offend the many virgins watching GB News, but also because he masturbates a lot. There's Daphne, of course, and can you believe it? They made Fred black. Why are you always ruining my childhood, wokeists? And there's Velma. The first clip from Saturday 5 features Tufton Street's Emily Carver talking very loudly in a very posh accent for about a minute and a half on her chosen subject, which is the French protesters need to calm down and get a grip. It's beyond ridiculous. Now, before we start, I do not know much about Emily Carver, except that this is always a cheery looking lady who is engaged to this miserable looking bastard. And to be fair to him, he's chosen his partner wisely, because when these two have kids, their genes will offset each other and it will result in children whose facial expressions will look neutral and normal and not weird as fuck. It's the same principle when this guy has children with this lady. The kids' eyes will actually be in the normal places. I don't have time to research Crafty's minions, but I did see a tweet featuring Emily Carver which allows us to all instantly form an opinion about her, where she asks, "Do people think Keir Starmer is too woke to be tough on crime, and will he be able to tackle crime effectively as Prime Minister?" I tweeted, "I have better things to do than watch this, so can someone please let me know if they mentioned that Keir Starmer was head of the CPS for half a fucking decade, or do they conveniently forget to mention that important fact?" And I have actually watched that video since then, so I don't have anything better to do, but they do indeed admit many details about Keir Starmer, including the one I just mentioned, which really does instantly shit all over her points, including the fact that Keir Starmer was a QC in court for 7 years, and therefore knows the law from back to front, and after being the director of public prosecutions for the CPS, he was then knighted by the Queen for his services. So yes, I think he specifically has what it takes to tackle crime. But look at the two examples Emily is about to shout at her guest that show that Keir Starmer will actually be soft on crime. How silly I was to think otherwise.
James, that is a point. I mean, people see Keir Starmer, they see that he's been photographed taking the knee, which was then something that police officers also did at Black Lives Matter protests, I believe. We also saw the police being quite weak when it came to Extinction Rebellion. People do perceive the Labour Party as being in support of these kind of groups, wrongly or rightly. It does seem like Keir Starmer is happy to go along with the sort of latest trends, political activism, etc., etc. Do you think that people might look at Keir Starmer and the Labour Party and think, nah, you're not going to be tough on crime? You're too woke, basically.
Emily gave two examples of things that have nothing to do with the crime rate right there, and certainly has nothing to do with crimes that people are actually concerned about. Plus she did two straw man arguments were thrown into the mix too, all within a 40-second build-up where both guests go on to say, well, Actually, Keir Starmer vowed to tackle the low conviction rate for rapists, which instantly proves you wrong. And in conclusion, Emily Carver is a great example of how easy it is to be a grifter on a channel aimed squarely at angry right-wing gammon. You just have to pander to them and say buzzwords like woke instead of making an argument and cha-ching!
Next up, into the lion's den, of course, it's our one and only Emily Carver. Emily's going to tell us why she thinks the French need to calm down, chill out and get a grip. Let's start the clock.
Well, it looks like that chap's already made my argument for me, but let's just say I'm no fan of Monsieur Macron. But what is going on in France at the moment is beyond ridiculous. I mean, it is absolutely extreme, the riots. You've got widespread arson. You've got rubbish piled high.
Rubbish isn't actually the fault of protesters, and that's not why they're protesting.
You've got absolute rampant hooliganism.
Hooliganism is football-based violence only, and they're not protesting because their team lost 1-0.
And you've also got police brutality. You'd think Macron had forcibly replaced the croissant with the English muffin. The absolute state of it. And worst of all, King Charles III won't even be able to have his gala dinner at the Palace of Versailles. Sacre bleu, sacre bleu.
Worst of all, right, is not that their pensions will be affected, but the worst thing is that King Charles won't be able to eat an 8-course banquet. I bet you all feel pretty stupid now, don't you, protesters?
And why? All because Macron wants to raise the pension age by 2 years, from 62 to 64, which, let's remember, is still the lowest out of any major European Union country.
Yeah, how dare they have a better quality of life than us? We all have to work until we can't feel our legs anymore, but in France, they spend 14.5% of their GDP on pensions. The European average is 11.6% of GDP on pensions, and here in Britain, it's just 5.5%. Therefore, we work longer and harder than the bloody French, so we can avoid starving to death in old age. What do the French do? They, I don't know, set a town hall on fire, then eat a croissant. It's no wonder we all voted for Brexit.
So is this really the great disaster? Now, you don't have to be a fan of Macron to know that, you know, the French need to get real.
Well, that's told them. You're very clever, Emily, very clever. I think GB News will be changing the format of this show very soon, like after the first week of broadcast, because every single one of the other presenters and the guests went on to shit all over Emily's points, and I tell you now, Tufton Street will not like that. Even Darren Crafty Grimes made a good point that also made Emily look stupid, although she did a lot of that groundwork herself, to be fair. Anyway, that was a little taste of piss-taking that you can expect in April 2023, which I've renamed Darren Grimes Month, where I shall be uploading a video per week that tears apart the stupidity of his new GB News show. So do subscribe, like and share on social media, and until next time, wanks for watching. Bye-bye.